do this.
You've probably heard this line in more meetings than you've heard,
"You're on mute."
and that's, don't worry, it's 5 nines. Okay, 5 nines. 99.999% uptime. Sounds like a nice safety blanket you can wrap around an entire ESInet and then go sleep like a baby. Except an ESInet is not just one thing. It's a chain.
Chain, chain, chain. Chain, chain, chain. Chain, chain, chain. Chain of food.
Origination networks, interconnects, routing, policy, GIS, PSAP edge, call handling, logging, recording, power, circuits, certificates, vendors, humans, and the occasional backhoe that likes to show up like it's got a personal vendetta. So today we're going to talk about the myth of 5 nines in a real ESInet and how to replace it with something that'll actually keep calls and data moving. And that's coming up next on TiPS, Today in Public Safety.
Welcome to TiPS, Today in Public Safety, your go-to podcast for today's breaking stories and public safety news. Here's your host, Fletch, with today's tips.
Welcome to TiPS, Today in Public Safety. This is Fletch. I'm a NEMA certified ENP, and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I bring you the latest, most informative, and sometimes a bit controversial takes on emergency communications. Today we're taking a deep dive into the myth of 5 nines in a real ESInet. So let's start with the part that'll annoy the folks who build the marketing slides. 5 nines is not a force field. It's a math statement, and it only applies to whatever someone decided to actually measure. If you've got 5 nines on a core transport service, that can be real. It can be engineered, tested, and backed up with an SLA. But the second that someone casually implies 5 nines for the ESInet, or worse, 5 nines for 911, you need to be hearing a quiet little alarm inside your head that says, define the boundary. Because reliability isn't a slogan. Reliability is an end-to-end outcome. What 5 nines really means and what it doesn't. Let me translate. 99.999% uptime sounds like always, but in reality, it's 5 minutes and 15 seconds of downtime every year. Now, that's not terrible. I'll take that for a lot of things. But here's the trick. That number describes one component in one provider's scope measured in one specific way. Often it's measured at the provider edge. Often it excludes scheduled maintenance. Read your contract carefully because sometimes it excludes third-party failures, which is kind of a polite way of saying anything interesting. So if your transport has 5 nines but your DNS has 3 nines, your certificate management has human nines, that's a technical term, and your GIS is being updated by a guy named Dave, then your end-to-end experience isn't going to be 5 nines. It's actually whatever the weakest link is on the worst day. And in ESInet's, worst days aren't rare. A lot of worst days are Tuesday. An ESInet is a system of systems, and the caller doesn't care which part fails. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Your public doesn't call your transport network. They call 911. They don't care that your IP backbone is up or down if the call can't route. They don't care that routing is up but location validation fails. They don't care if the call gets delivered or not if the call taker's screen is frozen or the map is blank. So when someone tries to say our ESInet is 5 nines, the only real response is, what, from the handset to the headset, including location and policy, under load during change windows, with real failure scenarios, or just the part that you sell? Because an ESInet touches a hell of a lot more than routers. Your ESInet touches the origination networks, the ones that hand you the call and the data, border control and security policies, DNS and time sync. It touches certificates, trust stores, and expirations that happen at 2 a.m. on a holiday weekend, ECRF and LVF, as well as GIS data integrity. And it also touches call handling, logging, and recording. And don't forget about power, HVAC, and that surprise construction project just outside the building. So I hope you're thinking, geez, it sounds like way too many moving parts for one uptime number. Yeah, that's the point. The reliability trap, SLAs that don't match the mission. Let me give you a classic example. A provider might meet their SLA because the backbone stayed up, but the calls still fail because a peering route got weird, or DNS resolution slowed to a crawl. Maybe a certificate chain broke, or policy routing choked on a malformed object. And pretty much everybody can honestly say, hey, our piece was up. Meanwhile, the PSAP is staring at silence. And this is why I say 5 nines is a myth in an operational ESInet. It's not because reliability is impossible. It's because the measurement rarely matches what public safety actually needs. Public safety doesn't need router uptime. Public safety needs call completion and data delivery, correctly routed, correctly located, and correctly displayed. It's a different metric and different engineering. What you should ask for instead of 5 nines. So if you want to level up the conversation, here are some questions that can actually matter. First, what is the service definition? Is it IP reachability? Is it SIP call setup? Is it end-to-end call completion? Or is it call completion plus location validation, policy routing, and delivery of associated data? Big difference. Second, where is it measured? Measuring at the provider edge is not the same as at the PSAP intake, and neither of them is the same as the call taker position. Third, what's excluded? Maintenance windows, downstream carrier issues, origination issues, DDoS, certificate failures, software defects, human error, and more. If the exclusions list is longer than your patience, your 5 nines is basically a motivational poster. Hang in there. Fourth, define what happens during a failure. Do you actually have proven failover? Tested with real traffic, not just on a diagram? Do you have diversity that's actually diverse, not two circuits in the same trench that'll share the same fate? And fifth, what's the operational plan? Monitoring, alerting, incident response, runbooks, escalations, and drills. Because the best architecture still needs grown-up operations. Reality check. In a real ESInet, the biggest threat to availability is rarely a dead router. It's usually something like a change that had low risk until it met production. A dependency that nobody remembered was a dependency. DNS, NTP, as well as logging and identity. Maybe it was a shared service that became a shared failure. And a single point of, we thought we had redundancy, that turned out to be an assumption. And here's the part that stings a little bit. Most outages aren't dramatic. They're subtle, intermittent, partial, or degraded. All the things that make them hard to find and troubleshoot. Calls don't always fail loudly. Sometimes they fail weird. So if your only promise is 5 nines, you're not prepared for weird. You're prepared for a slide deck. The bottom line. Fear not, 5 nines is not useless, but it's not the mission. Use it as a component metric, not a system promise. The mission metric is simple to say, but hard to engineer. Calls and data get to the right place, fast, every time, even when something breaks. So the next time someone sells you 5 nines, just smile and politely ask, 5 nines of what? Measured where? Including which dependencies? And under what failure scenarios? And if the room goes quiet, congratulations. You just improved your ESInet without spending a nickel. Stay safe. Thanks so much for listening. And if you're in public safety, thanks for what you do every single day. Take care. I'll catch you next time.
You've been listening to TiPS, Today in Public Safety, your go-to podcast for today's breaking stories and public safety news. Hosted by Fletch and available every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Catch past episodes on 911tips.com. Be sure to like and subscribe, and remember to join us each week for the latest on NG911. I am Spider Harrison, the official 911 voiceover dude. Catch me on Sirius XM on various channels, including 90s on 9, the 10 spot, and on the Weekend Countdown on Hits 1. Or don't regret it for the rest of your life. Either way, I'm good.